is Hey Heart 143 with Natalie Tavidian. 143 means I love you. Together, we're learning to love ourselves and stay in love no matter what life throws at us. We are constantly evolving, changing, growing emotionally, spiritually, and physically. And we have to remember to check in with our own heart as we're propelled forward. When you love your own heart, you heal better, you do better, and you live a more fulfilled life. Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce you to my first guest on Hey Heart 143. Kimberley Baliutavicius talks to us about finding power in pain and getting re-energized and radical self-acceptance, the importance of that radical self-acceptance. Today, we're recording this at the start of summer solstice. So it's the first day of summer, it's a new season, it's my first guest, and I'm so excited to share this with you. Enjoy. It's the first day of summer, and I have my first guest, Kim Baliutavicius. Kim is a force of nature. I've known this girl since high school, and you have always been such an incredible woman. She is now a wife, a mom, a coach, an entrepreneur, entertainer, and an athlete, an incredible athlete. And you're a competitor, yes. A fitness competitor, and a dancer, yes. Among many. Welcome, Kim. Thank you so much for being here. So we're talking about self-love and the importance of self-love and hitting rock bottom and kind of loving yourself enough to always step back up. So talk a little bit about that. Talk a little bit about the first time you hit rock bottom and how you've gotten to where you've gotten to.
Well, I would say one of the first times I hit rock bottom was probably when I was in college. And actually, you already know this story, but when our close friend Brittani passed away, that was one of the first times I realized how broken I was. I was actually experiencing a lot of substance abuse at that time, getting into the college scene, and after she had passed away, I fell down a pretty dark hole of depression, and it was really hard for me. I got into drugs and alcohol, and although I was pursuing my dreams in school, getting my bachelor's degree in dance and theater, it was definitely one of those moments where I didn't really want to be here anymore. I didn't understand why someone so amazing was taken from us so quickly, and someone like me, who I felt like a total mess up, was still here just screwing up. And so that was one of the first times that I had to look at myself and say, what are you doing? You know, why were you spared? You know, and I actually had the opportunity, because I was in school for art, to create movement and choreography and even monologues and different things based on that trauma. And so I didn't realize how deep it was even prior to the death of my best friend. It was also the rejection, the abandonment that I had just as a little girl, the feelings of never being enough. And ultimately, I pretty much kind of hit rock bottom in front of everybody in class. I was in one of my modern dance classes, and it was one of these moments where we had to share what our piece was about. And for me, I've never really had a hard time being vocal about what's going on with me, but to create something so near and dear to my heart that was so emotional and so powerful that made other people weep, I realized that it was kind of like my superpower. Like my pain was
Creating.
my power. Yeah, like my performance about my pain, and vocalizing it after made me feel invincible, like, and connected to the world. Whereas before I isolated for so long and numbed myself through, the substances and sleeping all day and not being able to focus in school and just trying to make it by. And so that was the first time that I realized when I hit it that there was power in it.
Isn't that amazing? I read somewhere, I mean, I feel like when you have these cracks in your heart, and I read this that said that's where the light gets in. And I want to stop you right there. I can't believe you started off with Brittani Idom.
I can't believe that either, but it just totally randomly.
She has to be here with us.
Yeah,
like if people could see us, I have tears in my eyes right now. We were so close, and that was so shocking. We were only like 18 years old.
Yeah.
And to hear of something so senseless out of the blue was. She's with us.
Yes.
She's with us. So Brittani Idom, she was a creator. I have this video of her in high school talking about, I want to be an architect and I want to be a director and I want to do this and that, and just so filled with life and wanting to do so much. So she's here with us.
Exactly. So that was the beginning of a difficult journey, but it also showed me a bit of who I am and what my power was. And then the second time I hit rock bottom was more so recently after I had my son, which was a very difficult, high-risk pregnancy. He was actually diagnosed with a very, very rare condition that put us in a position where doctors were telling us that he wouldn't even survive the pregnancy. So he had something that only 1% of pregnancies have, and it just had to do with his ability to not release urine, and so there was no amniotic fluid, and so his lungs weren't fully developed. It was just a super crazy.
This is what doctors were telling you while you were pregnant.
I was pregnant. So when we went to go see, hey, like, is it a boy or a girl? Super excited. And they're like, hey, so we're going to have to send you to a specialist. And they suggested that we terminate the pregnancy because he was not most likely going to survive. And if he did survive, that he would be a super, super special needs type of child who would probably need a kidney transplant right away.
This was the doctor's suggestion.
Yeah. And
I just got chills all over my body.
It was a really, really, really rough time because I had just had my daughter. She was only like 6 months old, and I was only 3 months pregnant. So I got pregnant like 3 months after my first, and so the postpartum wasn't even like, I wasn't even in my like 4th trimester. Like I didn't even finish like understanding what it was like to be a mom, and then being pregnant again, and then dealing with something so tragic was terrible. But my husband and I, really focused on our faith. And I think in those moments of prayer and of surrender and of realizing, all the blame and all of the me thinking that it was my fault for producing, an ill child, and just all the guilt and regret from me feeling like this was kind of more of one of those things like punishment for all the bad things I did in life. And I had to go through that journey. And it was really an intense journey that stretched my faith. It built up my endurance when it comes down to life just throwing curveballs at you. And we overcame it. My son is a miracle child. Yes, he was in NICU for 7 weeks, and they didn't think he was going to survive, but
how old is he now?
He's about to be 2 years old in August, and
his health?
His health is impeccable. He's amazing. He is our miracle boy. And when I think about things that don't make sense, or circumstances that look really, really challenging, or feeling extremely vulnerable and angry and upset with God, with life, with everything, I think about that moment, because the faith that it built in within myself, within just that inner knowing, the affirmations that I spoke, the visions that I saw, I had to set my mind on things that were above and not what I was seeing. I had to live by faith and not by sight. And so it ultimately took me on this journey of living a fearless, faith-filled life. And ultimately, it wiped me out. After he was born and things were still okay, I went through a really, really, really deep depression of just overwhelm and exhaustion. And
Were you scared?
I was scared. I had like panic attacks every day. I wasn't barely able to, I couldn't drive. I couldn't leave the house without my husband. I couldn't move. I had a cloud over my head. It was really hard to even just be awake. I just wanted to sleep. I didn't want to play with my kids. I didn't want to be around anybody. And I just remember calling out to God and just asking what is my purpose here? Like, what is my identity as a mom, as a wife? I just feel so lost. I feel so drained. I just feel so purposeless, and in that moment, in that searching and in that calling out, I was able to remember who I was, and I got brief little things. It's like you randomly get an email from someone asking for a dancer. You randomly get opportunities that force you out of your comfort zone.
I was gonna say, because I know dance is your passion. That is who you are to the core.
Yeah.
Were you losing that? Had you stopped dancing? Had you stopped doing what you loved?
I was actually dancing through both pregnancies. I was teaching dance. I kept getting opportunities, even though I wasn't putting myself out there. I kept getting random little opportunities from different people, just little like encouragement, like, this is who you are, like just little, I just want to say gifts, just signs from God to just nudging me back onto the path, even though I am a mom, even though I am a wife, even though circumstances are really hard and I should be just focusing on this. I just couldn't. I couldn't just be a wife and a mom. I had to be who I really am. And it was like during those moments, it was cool because it stretched me. It was like, oh, we want, if you can make a piece about this.
So life is just throwing all these things at you, but then there's still these signs of, this is who you are. Mm-hmm. Do what you love. Do what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I was always seeking as well, though. I never truly committed to this is just what it is. Like, I was always like, no, like I have dreams, I have goals, and it was just so hard for me to just sit, and I had to accept where I was, but I had to take responsibility that it wasn't going to stay that way. And if I want things to change, I need to change my perspective. So I definitely read a lot of books and listened to a lot of motivational things, but it was really just the opportunities that came up that put me back into alignment. And ultimately, the biggest opportunity was me getting into, because we were doing Crowned Fitness, but it wasn't really doing much. So I was leading moms throughout this process. And so in me leading and putting my best foot forward, I was able to hear other stories, and I was able to step up and be a leader despite my situation. And because of that, through my vulnerability, coaching and developing other moms and women, it brought new light to me of what it means to be a leader and how it has nothing to do with how strong you are, but it's actually about how vulnerable you can be about your weaknesses. That's your strength as a leader, because when I would try and act like everything was okay, there was no power there. There was no connection there with the other women. But when I would say, hey, this is where I'm going through, it'd be like, I'd be flooded with, constant.
Or me too,
Yeah.
or oh my goodness, I'm not alone in all of this. And isn't that so beautiful to just speak up and say, listen, this is real life. We go through crap, but we have to stay positive. We have to keep that faith. So how did you not, when you did get to those moments of depression, I feel like a lot of people stay there or they become this victim. How did you make that conscious choice of, no, this is not life. This is not how it's supposed to be?
I think I just got so tired of feeling like crap all the time. I had a vision, and that's all I had. I just knew that this is not what I wanted my life to be like, and I just held on to that vision. And of course I went through my victimized role and blaming everyone and blaming myself, but I did accept it. I accepted that this is a part of my journey, and it's a part of my journey because of who I am, because of what power lies beneath all this crap. There's power there. There's a reason why I'm depressed. There's a reason for it. Something's out of alignment. And a lot of it was just me giving up on what I truly wanted to do because I was a wife and because I was a mom. I wasn't doing what I wanted to do. And even though my circumstances didn't change, me just taking a dance class one time realigned me and re-energized me. And it wasn't like, oh, I got all these opportunities to get paid and now I'm going to be a professional dancer again. It was like, no, I just took a dance class and it made me happy. And I realized, oh, it's possible. It's possible to be instantly recharged and happy when you put yourself in a position that makes you happy. It was like doing little things, like even just going out in nature and playing basketball with my husband, things that were just so small, but they give you little rushes of adrenaline and energy, and it's just, you just want to smile. So what puts you in that place?
But that's huge. You're out there in the elements. You're getting out of your rut. You're doing something that brings you joy.
Yeah.
I love what you say about re-energize.
Yeah.
When you do get into these moments of, I'm the victim, or this happened to me, or why did this happen? I think the secret is just kind of stepping back and saying, what's the lesson here?
Yeah, definitely. What's the lesson, but also not trying to rush the process.
Yes.
You are feeling this for a reason and not trying to just kind of brush it off and pick yourself back up. Because I did that. I would always try and push through and fight it.
And everything's fine.
And,
everything's fine.
yeah,
Everything is dandy.
right,
And never
right.
said no, I'm not happy and it's okay. I'm accepting this.
Yeah. I think the biggest part of my journey was when I actually made a post about it. I made a post about it and I shared, hey guys, I'm really going through this. I actually reached out for help because I was just something's wrong. I don't know if it's my hormones, what is going on? So I reached out for help through my doctor, and I'm doing behavioral therapy. So I'm not doing any medications or anything like that. I really just have a mental health team that's just really awesome and supportive and taught me a lot about radical self-acceptance. And so I went down this journey of, first I put it out there wow, I just got diagnosed with severe anxiety disorder, panic disorder. And I was I knew something was wrong.
Was that hard to hear?
It was actually easier to hear because I was I know I'm tripping. What is this? For a moment I accepted it. And then I also accepted the responsibility of what that meant for me and my family. If I have this, then what is the protocol. So I went to my sessions, and really I was expecting them to put me on medication, but it was like, as I spoke, all this wisdom was coming from within. Like, I knew all the reasons why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and I just needed to talk about it. I needed to understand who I was. And as I filled out all the paperwork of all the things I've been through, they're like, well, of course you're feeling crazy. Like, you have a lot.
And
There's
you've never talked about it or accepted that you've been through real crap in life.
Right. It's like, who hasn't? Like, everyone's gone through something and nobody cares. Like, but...
No, but these are your lessons, and this is your pain, and it is your life, and it doesn't make it any less or any more than someone else's pain.
I didn't realize how powerful our pain was until I started stepping into my purpose, which is creating work that it has a lot to do with my journey, my process, my fight, the negative space, the tug of war inside, creating those opportunities for me to express myself through movement and music. It made me realize, like, damn, like, pain is powerful, especially when it comes to creating art, and if I can use that power to affect other people in a positive way, then I'm winning, and then I accept my pain. Now, there was times when I wasn't, creating anything, but I was helping others. I was coaching, women, and they would be telling me stuff. And when I first started as a trainer, I was a pretty hard ass. I was like, this is the program, this is what you're gonna do,
and you have to stick to it, and I'm not gonna forgive you for having a cheat day and eating a box of Oreos.
Exactly,
you did this.
Exactly. Like, whereas I went through a period of time where I understood what it was like to really feel completely out of control and not know why you're doing the things that you're doing.
Do you feel like you connect with your fitness clients and on a different level now that you're at a place where you've accepted your pain and you've said, okay, pain is okay, and I'm dealing with this?
I got to a place where I stopped trying to be somebody else, which is really what it was. It was like, I didn't realize that I really just did not accept myself. It was not okay. I was not okay. What I was doing was not okay. I need to be this, and this in order to be successful. I need to be like this in order to have purpose in life. And this is why I'm not where I need to be. Just super goal-oriented perfectionism at its finest. And ultimately, it was just killing me. It was stealing my power little by little every time I looked in the mirror and said it wasn't good, what I saw, that it needed to be this.
And do you feel like feedback from others? Because on the outside, you probably knew how people saw you as this independent, tough, entrepreneur, badass woman. Do you feel like you had to own up to that identity?
I feel like I definitely, there was a part of me that knew that it was possible for me to be that way, but a lot of it was also pressure to maintain that status. Like, well, people accept, this is what they accept. They accept this woman who works out, who diets, who has kids. Like, I needed for myself to control everything so that at least people would accept me, because I wouldn't accept myself. It was still not enough. Even when people would give me compliments, it was just not enough, because every time I woke up and looked in the mirror, it wasn't enough. And so I did have to own up to it, but it was more so owning up to the reasons why I was like that. It was because I went through so many things that I had to fight and be independent. And it was because I went through so many circumstances that made me really, really dig deep. I did the work, I didn't bullshit. I looked inside, I created, I wrote in my journal about what I was dealing with, what I was feeling. I've, of course, God, like, why, blaming and just being really upset. And in those moments, there was breakthrough. it was like release. And those were the moments that I realized that's why I'm powerful, and that's why people can see that, because I have put in the work. I'm not blinded to my problems, the things that make me weak, quote unquote.
Yeah. So I was piggybacking on you saying that weak. Would you say that vulnerability actually makes somebody stronger?
Oh, yeah.
Being vulnerable is strong.
Oh, yeah.
That's a sign of strength.
Yes, it's a super sign of strength. And I used to think that strength was ultimately your ability to be tough and angry and hard-spoken and, leadership. Like, that's strength, how much you can endure without
Would
saying
you say
anything.
now it's more keeping that poise?
But now I feel that strength is being like, I'm super struggling, like I'm going through this, because it opens up so many opportunities to create a mass amount of people to come forward. If you say that little by little to each person, and they're like, wow, that's cool, she's struggling, like she seems like she's got it all together. And that's so much more powerful than me acting like I have it all together, because all it does is push other people away and think that they'll never achieve that, because they know how they feel inside, no matter what facade we put forward. So it was like me owning up to what I don't show on at work or to my clients or in my perfect pictures. Like, this is what's really going on. And it made me feel alive, actually, rather than like just a statue of fitness pictures and this is how I can cut all this fat after a baby. Like, it didn't feel powerful. It was actually like, yeah, I did all that. Then I, realized that I have a serious issue with eating disorder that I didn't know that I had for so many years. And it was like, when I went through that, it really made me realize that, dang, like there's so much more to life. You have to be balanced, you have to be vulnerable, you have to go through the crap that you go through. Quit trying to fix yourself. Like, every time you fix yourself, something else just comes up, like, from burnout and fatigue.
You had this post on your Instagram that really stood out to me, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about where that came from. You write, perspective is key. Mm-hmm. We don't need to change or become something or someone else in order to be happy. True happiness comes from pure acceptance, accepting the things that are unfair, accepting the things you cannot change, and shifting your perspective to it is what it is, and trusting God to do what he does best, giving us beauty from our ashes.
Dang, I forgot to post that. I remember that day.
I said that.
I remember that day.
Beauty from our ashes. It's like a phoenix rising, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You
definitely.
Remember that day?
I remember that day. That was a super powerful day. I had truly experienced the power of radical self-acceptance. I mean, and I say radical because no circumstances were lined up. Nothing changed for me. Finances didn't change. My marriage situation didn't change. My kids still crazy, driving me crazy. My body didn't change. I didn't hit any big goals. I was ultimately in the same circumstance, yet I was happy. And the reason why was because I literally accepted it. Like, it is what it is. I have issues with the way that I look. I don't like the way that I feel. I don't want to work out. I don't want to diet. I just want to hang out with my kids. I just want to hang out with my husband. I just want to date again. I don't want to be this super fit entrepreneur right now. I just want to be a human, living a human life, making mistakes and enjoying the benefits. And there will be some circumstances if I continue on this path, but I accept that because I look back and I see everything lining up and adding up, and God is faithful. Like, I've gotten so many blessings. Like, when you look back and you're grateful for what you have, you can accept the circumstances that aren't lining up to what you want, because all of the experiences that you're creating, all the mistakes that you're having, you're getting it out of the way so that your future self is going to be like popping, you know, like having a good life. But I just had to realize, like, if my perspective is like, hey, life is good, all the mistakes, all the things that I do that aren't lined up with, you know, goals, and it's like I'm not hustling hard, like I'm just living. It was so powerful. I remember that moment of true acceptance, because I am a competitor. I am a competitive person. I do make money based on how I look, you know, and so I finally got to this place where, what if the way I am naturally as an athlete is my own market, and what if it's enough? And what about the power that's behind me understanding that I'm enough? Because all the confidence that comes with who I am, and not trying to look like anybody else, and not trying to be what the criteria is. What if I just accept what God gave me?
There's no other Kimberly out there.
Right.
You need to accept that.
Right. And there's no other Natalie, you know? So it's kind of like...
But you have to get to this place of self-love to say, why am I trying to be like the status quo of the industry that I'm in?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it is just getting slammed on your face and realizing that I keep trying to be like everybody else. I keep trying to build this life that I think is perfect, and it just keeps slapping me in the face. And you know what? I'm going to duck this time and just actually not even go that direction. I'm just going to avoid that by just sitting back and chilling. Like, I mean, a lot of the times, you know, it's like, especially in this era of entrepreneurship, it's like grind, hustle, never sleep, always work.
But what about rest?
Right.
What about rest?
What
when
about
you're
rest?
tired, you don't quit, right? You rest, you get rest, you take care of yourself.
Those are the moments where you appreciate what you're doing.
And you come back re-energized, like you said.
Re-energized, and you come back and you re-strategized too. Because in that moment of rest, you're like...
Things come to you. Things come to you when you're resting.
Creativity. You know, sometimes when you're going so hard and trying so hard to make things work, it really just comes down to you being overwhelmed and just exhausted, and you have no power there. And so the things like where you just accept, and I think self-love is, it's tough. It comes from a place of acceptance. I think acceptance is the first thing of being like, no, it is what it is. I am what I am. And that's it. This is who I am. It may not feel like it's enough, but I have to believe that it is enough. Mm-hmm. And everything that's attracted to me is only when I am my authentic self, and realizing that it's enough. And
but it takes
hard.
work. It takes a lot of work to get to that level.
Every single moment, every single day, like, I'm enough. Yeah. I am enough. It is what it is. I am enough. My financial situation is what it is. How can I
stay in the moment?
Stay in the moment.
Stay in the moment. Keep doing what you love.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you want to talk about your competition?
Yeah, sure. I mean, briefly. Honestly, competing has made me realize that it challenged me in a way where I had to find out who I was faster. Okay. Because when you compete and when people judge you based on how you look, and especially because I do fitness based on what your routine is, it's very subjective. It really has nothing.
What exactly is the type of competition you're doing?
I do the National Physique Committee, which is a physique competition. My category is a fitness division. It's a 2-minute routine where you show all of who you are, your creativity skills, dance, flexibility, power, strength. And so you can do that whatever way you want. However, of course, there's a tradition there. There is a bias there of what they consider what fitness is. And I come in as a theatrical dancer background, and I'm coming in and I'm shaking up the industry. And I have to be so confident in what I do because everyone is so different.
What's everybody else's background? Is it
Everyone
all
else's
different?
background is mostly gymnastics and cheerleading.
Okay.
And so those are pretty much the only people who would do the crazy stuff that we do. All the plyometric push-ups and jumps and flips and all that stuff. It's no one else really just randomly gets into that, you know. So it's kind of cookie cutter, you know. It's people, the pioneers, I guess, of it have established this is kind of what fitness is, but the sport is slowly dying. It's not attracting more than the cheerleader type. So I'm coming in with the identity of a dancer who has something to say, a person who is not afraid to talk about their journey through their routine, creating work that is powerful, impactful, emotional, and even creating it, making a statement about the industry and the eating disorders and all the things that are happening within it in order to fit a specific mold, in order to be accepted by the judges, in order to be validated and confirmed that they're enough when they get a trophy. And the only reason why I feel like I've been accelerated in my self-acceptance is by putting myself out there and being vulnerable and winning sometimes and losing sometimes, to the point where it's like, dang, like, this sucks, you know? Like, putting yourself out there and really caring about what a panel of judges have to say about you. But there's so much power in it because you get up and you do it anyway, even though you know that they may not accept what you're doing. And
so that's like the ultimate form of vulnerability.
Yeah.
You're placing yourself on a stage in the spotlight
Yes.
with a panel of judges to watch you and tell you this is your score, this is how we feel about you.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds terrifying.
It's extremely uncomfortable, but it's extremely powerful, like the next day or so. Like,
but I feel like you're using the
like
stage to tell more, tell more than I'm here to win an award.
Yeah. It's hard. I mean, I just came back from Chicago where I did the national championships and I placed third. Congrats. And I was, thank you. I believe that I should have gotten first, but however, I understand why I didn't receive it because I cared so much about them saying, because it was the biggest platform I had been on to this day. I needed them to say that I was the best in that moment. I really did. And I didn't know that I really needed them to say that until they didn't say it. And my total like emotional turmoil that happened after, when it was like, really? So I'm not enough. Interesting. But it really raised this fire within. It was just like, fan the fire, and that flame was like, actually I am enough. Actually, you know what I mean? Like, and it was like, you know what, this is what I came here to do. And maybe you're biased, maybe you don't care about what I'm doing, but you know what, I see the faces, I saw your face, you were impressed, and I don't care what you have to say about what's better than me. This is what I came here to do.
How do you feel now about that placement?
I feel like it was super necessary for me to not win, because then it validates everything that I stand for, which is self-acceptance, period. Like, whether they accept it or not, whether they place it on first place or not, it was good. It was real, it was me, and it was enough. It was enough in that moment. Of course, I went back to the drawing board, started to re-strategize and recreate, which is what I love to do best. And so it pushed me and challenged me. I was like, let me look at this. Let me see, is there more? And so there is.
You immediately jumped back into...
Immediately jumped back into pulling and to go deeper. Yeah. Like, because every time you step out and do something and create something, it's good. You're like, it's really good. And then you watch it and you're like, I see more because there's always so much more to pull out and pull out and pull out. And especially even in therapy, like you think you've said it all, but if you come into your weekly sessions, it's like, dang, there's still more.
You discover something deeper. It's like peeling an onion.
Exactly. There's so many layers. And so that's why I want to continue to step on that stage, not only for my own acceptance, but also of others to understand, like, you should be different. You should be you. You should not create routines that are fitting the mold just because you want to win. You should use this space, this opportunity, the platform that you're on, whatever it is, to show the world who you are. You have a story to tell. You have power in your background, in your pain. You know, we all have it. So use it.
Kimberly, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Tell our listeners where they could find you and when your next competition is.
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram at Mrs. Crowned Fit, so CROWNEDFIT, Mrs. because I'm married, so Mrs. Crowned Fit, and then I'm also on Facebook under my full name, Kimberley Baliutavicius, and I'm also on crownedfitness.com. That's where you can find out about coaching and ultimately kind of what we're about. And my next competition, I actually just did a fundraiser and I'm like almost there. So I can go to the Universe Championships and show more people what it's about to be different and unique on 4th of July weekend in New Jersey. So this is a big deal for me. I never really had this much excitement going into something so vain. I mean, honestly, like it's more so about my message now.
Yeah.
And getting back up and putting myself out there again, because I love the way it's challenging me, and I love how much I'm growing as a person. And you just can't do that sitting around and being afraid of what people are going to say or think. You know, you just got to be yourself. So I'm excited about it. And then right after that, the next weekend, I'll be in Vancouver for
no breaks.
The pro qualifier. Yeah. So honestly, I would love to do this on a global scale. Just keep creating work that means something. Keep making a message out of, you know, my ashes and all the stuff that I've been through, because it feels really badass, honestly, you know, to say like, hey, I'm still here. I have a reason, I have a purpose for all this pain that I went through. You know?
I love it. Thank you for sharing your story. And I know you are inspiring lots of people. And I hope you come back on and tell us how everything goes.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad I get to share. It's like a pivotal moment in my life, and I think everything lined up perfectly right now.
Thank you. I feel like I could talk to you forever.
I know, right?
But that's it for now.
Okay, yes.
Bye. Thanks so much for spending time with me today. If you feel drawn to do it, please forward this to a friend, to someone who needs to hear this inspiring story. I hope you gained something very powerful from hearing from Kimberly. And again, you can find me everywhere at HeyHeart143. If you feel drawn to, please head over to iTunes and rate this episode so more people can find this podcast and hear the inspiring stories from Hey Heart 143. 143 means I love you. Thank you for tuning in. See you all next time.